Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Damien and today we're having a look at my top 5 recommendations for clubs to manage in England where they need a substantial rebuild to get back to where they were in their glory days. So before we jump into that, I'd just like to say if you're enjoying the content, please subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and if you'd like to talk about your own clubs that you're rebuilding or clubs you think I've missed in this video, please leave it down in the comments below. That would be awesome. Also, you'll see popping up my Twitter, the best way to see videos coming live. I'll always tweet them out, so if you follow me on Twitter, you'll be able to know exactly when those videos are coming out. Right, let's get into these top 5 clubs. They are all outside of the top division, all need work and a rebuild to get them back into the shape of challenging, winning promotion and getting back into the top flight. And let's jump straight into them. Down in the Championship, Sheffield Wednesday, one of the oldest football clubs in the world, being born back in 1867, now competing in the Championship. The Owls were one of the founding members of the Premier League back in 1992. Whilst the club has spent most of its league history in the top flight of England, it hasn't made it back to that level since being relegated from the Premier League in 19th position back in 2000. The club has one of the largest stadiums in the Championship, with an attendance just under 40,000 fans are able to attend. Wearing the blue and white iconic kit, the club has had some success, winning 4 league titles, 3 FA Cups, 1 League Cup and 1 Community Shield. However, for the fans, a real disappointment, living in the shadow of their neighbours, Sheffield United, who is now really one of the larger Sheffield clubs as they currently ply their trade in the Premier League, and that's exactly where Sheffield Wednesday want to get back up to that level as soon as possible. And we will see as we look through. 3-star reputation for Sheffield Wednesday. We've got our fierce rival Sheffield United, which is the main rival for us as we work our way back up to the Premier League. We've got basically average facilities, which isn't too bad I guess for this level, average academy coaching, average youth recruitment. And when we look at the squad and we look at it in terms of ability, we do have some pretty good players here, especially looking at value. There's definitely some players here if we need to sell some off to rebuild the squad. There should be a bit of money we can get there. And when you look at the finances as well, no transfer budget, but 100% of the transfer revenue is made available, which is exactly what I would think you would have to do with Sheffield Wednesday. Sell off some of their better players, invest that money into younger players who are going to be hungry and want to push the club up to the Premier League. And this falls just in line with what the board's asking from us. They're asking to avoid a relegation this year, but then they're looking at working towards gaining promotion to the Premier League next year, winning promotion the year after, and then establishing ourselves in the Premier Division. So exactly what we're talking about in this video is exactly what the board wants. The one complication, I suppose, when looking at the Sky Bet Championship, Sheffield Wednesday, due to financial irregularities, have a 6-point deduction to their points, starting out with a negative 6-point difference, and this makes this rebuild even more interesting. Can you overhaul the squad while kickstarting, picking up points required to move up the table as quickly as possible, getting away from that relegation zone to give yourself the time needed to make this save a success? Good luck. We move along and find ourselves now down in League One. Portsmouth, one of the number of clubs in this video that is playing in that 3rd tier of England. The club, affectionately known as Pompey, was founded in 1898. Fratton Park is the home ground for this football club, which has seen some highs and lows over the years. Portsmouth, one of only 5 English football clubs to have been champions of all 4 tiers of the professional English football pyramid, and the club has also won the FA Cup twice, last in 2007, 2008, as well as the Community Shield once and the EFL Trophy once. So looking back at that 2007-2008 FA Cup win, Portsmouth fans would be wishing they were still back there with Harry Redknapp at the helm and some much more recognisable players than what they have now. Looking at their last 10 years, you can see while they have had a promotion from League 2 to kickstart them back to League 1 now. You can see there was just the relegation in 2009, 2010, the relegation again in 11, 12, and then relegation again in 2012, 2013. So it's been a really, really disappointing 10 years for the Pompey fans. It makes it even worse that our fierce rivals Southampton are still up in the Premier League and nowhere near us at the moment, or we're nowhere near them at the moment. From a facilities point of view, we do have great training facilities and average youth facilities, as well as adequate academy coaching and adequate recruitment. Looking at the playing squad, definitely some good ability here and good potential here. While there's not a lot of value in the squad, there are a lot of younger players, which potentially means if we do need to rebuild this squad, hopefully we can sell them off for quite a bit more money. And looking at the finances now, you'll be able to see we've got $6 million in the bank and very minimal transfer budget, just like Sheffield Wednesday, but their 100% of the transfer revenue is made available. When we're looking at the club vision, they do want us to develop players using the club's youth system to rebuild the squad, but they are also looking at reaching the playoffs as a minimum this year and working towards a top half finish in the Sky Bet Championship next year. So definitely there'll be a challenge to make sure the squad is strong enough to get into those playoffs and get up, but it will be a challenge worth taking. So after some success over 10 years ago with Harry Redknapp in charge and an FA Cup win that we just spoke about, there has really been, as we saw, a decade of hurt for Portsmouth, and even more so with the main rival Southampton playing in the Premier League. Your job, if you choose to accept it, is to rebuild the team for an assault on the promotion places to the Championship before going hard for the playoffs to get back into the Premier League as soon as possible. You'll need all the luck with this one. Good luck. And here we are in League One again with Sunderland. With one of the highest average attendances in the world football, Sunderland is another club that is playing in a lower league, way lower than what they should be. Formed back in 1879, the Black Cat supporters have struggled to find a team with consistency since being relegated from the Premier League all those years ago. The team is iconic for its red and white striped shirts and black shorts, which they have played in for most of their history. While they're fierce rivals in the northeast, Newcastle United have had ups and downs over the last 10 years, and Sunderland fans can only reminisce of a strike force in the Premier League of Kevin Phillips and Niall Quinn, who were banging in goals back in those days. And they can also point to their history of winning 6 top-flight titles, 2 FA Cups and a Charity Shield as a point of comfort. In a region of England where results are everything, the fans are growing increasingly frustrated with the latest owner, Stuart Donald, who promised so much when taking over, but still has been unable to get the club out of League One after a couple of attempts. And when we look here, you can see there has been a number of relegations, out of the Premier League in 17, then the next year getting relegated down to League One, and even with a 5th and 8th place finish, they were unable to get out of the division. So looking at the generally, as we said, Newcastle are the main rivals, but also Middlesbrough and Portsmouth, who we spoke about earlier. The facilities should definitely be a help rather than a hindrance. Superb training facilities, excellent youth facilities, and adequate academy coaching and average youth recruitment. When we go to have a look at the players here, again, definitely some players who have some ability who can play at this level. But also, again, with looking at the value, not really any large players of value that could be sold off. However, there are some younger players with potential, so potentially they may be able, and already wanted, so potentially they may be able to be flogged off for some money to rebuild the squad. And looking at the finances, again, around $6 million in the bank. However, there is a bit more of a transfer kitty here at £500,000, and 100% of the transfer revenue is made available. So again, definitely some options, definitely the ability to overhaul the squad, get some money in, spend some money to bring some better players in, some younger players in who can push that team up into at least the minimum of the playoffs, into the promotion spaces. And as we can see here, the owner is looking at selling the club, so potentially with rumoured takeover going to happen hopefully this year, potentially there'll be some more money coming into the club that you can play with as well. So with a number of managers failing to make the step up, Sunderland needs someone to come into the club, lift the morale and get the players playing like champions to make that step back up into the Championship. With takeovers being rumoured now, it is a great time to take over as manager, where money potentially can be splashed and a squad assembled to head towards a Premier League return in the coming years. Do this for the fans. And we're back up to the Championship with club number 2. One of the clubs that I really do think about when someone mentions fallen giants in England. Nottingham Forest were founded back in 1865 and have quite an interesting trophy cabinet with a league title, 2 FA Cups, 4 League Cups, 1 Charity Shield, a UEFA Super Cup and 2 European Cups, which is the big call out in that trophy cabinet. And other than in 5 seasons in the 3rd tier of English football, Nottingham Forest has played amazingly the other 102 years in the top 2 flights of England, which is absolutely fantastic. With Clough doing an amazing job as manager in his time, Forest need to find that man again to help them bring back the glory days. After being relegated from the Premier League in 98-99 season, they have struggled for any real consistency, as we can see on the screen, challenging for any kind of return. The last 2 years, however, were a 9th and 7th place position in the Championship, their closest opportunity to snatch a place in that coveted playoff place positions. So looking at the squad here, from a general point of view, Derby's the fierce rival, but other rivals, especially 2 that are in the Premier League, Leicester and Sheffield United. Looking at the facilities, we've got some good training, good youth, an average academy and average youth recruitment, which isn't too bad for this level. Looking at the squad, we do have again some really good players with ability, as well as some good 3.5 to 4-star potential. And looking at the squad here, if we do need to overhaul it, we've got some players here that actually do have some solid value that potentially we can get out to overhaul the squad. And looking at the finances, Nottingham Forest is in a much better position financially compared to the other clubs so far that we've looked at. £15 million in the balance, £3.5 million in the transfer budget, and 100% of the transfer revenue again is also going to be made available. And when we look at the club vision, the board is exactly the same thought as what we are. The club needs to be rebuilt. It needs to reach the playoffs as a minimum, and they need to be fighting to go up, and next year looking to build on the promotion to the Premier League. They want to establish themselves back in the Premier League once again after over 20 years away. So with European trophies in this trophy cabinet, this club is one that yearns to be back in the bright lights of the Premier League. Can you capitalise on the good work done by the previous 5 managers over the last 2 years, and finally get the fans over the disappointment of missing the playoffs last year by 1 solitary goal? With a big shadow from Clough to work under, can you work wonders rebuilding this team and to get back into Europe in a few years' time? A really interesting rebuild, one that I'm sure Nottingham Forest fans would absolutely love to get back into that Premier League, and one that I think if you overhaul the squad you'll have no problem doing. Good luck. Reaching club number 1, and I couldn't think of another club that has had such strong heartache over the last decade. What a sad story when you look at their league history up on the screen now. Formed in 1874, Bolton has spent more seasons in the top flight at 73 years than any other club without winning a title. This is probably a great way to start out the description of where they are today. While the club has won the FA Cup 3 times as one of the few highs in its history, the fans can only dream of Bolton heading out in the Premier League with their white kit, like they did in 2004, where they secured a top 6 finish under Sam Allardyce with some really amazing world-renowned names, including Djorkaeff, Okocha, Pedersen and Haji Diouf, to name a few. And 15 years later, and they sit embarrassingly in League 2, the lowest that we've gone in this video, having been relegated from the Premier League in 2011 and never making it back up before suffering financial collapse and continuing to fall down the leagues. And looking at that, it's probably not going to be as easy, this one. This would be my toughest rebuild, I think, looking at all the teams we've looked at so far. Fierce rivals Wigan, Blackburn, United and Tranmere. Looking at their facilities, and also the stadium's no longer called the Reebok Stadium, it's now gone to the University of Bolton Stadium, which is a 28,700 seater. They've got great training facilities, good youth facilities, adequate academy coaching, adequate recruitment, which should help the team get back up quickly out of League 2. Looking at the squad, there'll probably be a few names here that you actually recognise, especially the top one here. We've got some reasonable ability, reasonable potential, but maybe not the sell-on value that we would have thought when we think about Bolton. And going to the finances, not even £1 million in the kitty. They have just gone through some really big financial issues, and no pounds in the transfer budget. And unfortunately, only 25% of transfer revenue will be made available as the club tries to repair its finances. Looking at the club vision, the board is looking to overhaul the squad, signing players to sell for a profit while working within the wage budget, but at the same time still expecting you to win League 2 and repairing the club's financial damage while gaining promotion back to the Sky Bet Championship on the first time of asking when they reach back to League One. So definitely a rebuild that for me would be my favourite one to do this year, considering Bolton has fallen down into League 2, and with limited money this team still has a number of players, as I mentioned, that you'd probably recognise. However, to make sure that Bolton goes straight back up, definitely worth a rebuilding of the squad. And if you choose to accept this club, you will need to stabilise the team, overhaul the squad, and have a go at bringing back this fallen giant to where it belongs, 3 divisions higher than where you currently find it. Enjoy getting into the transfer market and picking up some potential solid free transfers, and good luck. Well, nothing more inspirational than talking about one of the oldest football clubs in the world in Nottingham Forest. What a rebuild that could be. But definitely Bolton Wanderers making my number 1 spot in this video, with a club that has just been through some absolute bad luck and bad management over the last 10 to 15 years. Really, really crazy to go from a 6th place finish and then now finding themselves in League 2. But anyway, that's it for today. I'd just like to ask, if you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button. That would be fantastic. And again, I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.